Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. So this will be your weekly astrology forecast for the week of June 29th to July 5th of 2025. Before we get into the charts for this week, of course, if you're looking for any kind of reading with me, all those links are in the description below or in my bio if you're on TikTok. The best way is, of course, just on my link tree. Everything is listed there, but of course there's more links in the YouTube description. With all that being said, of course, before we head into the charts, as we head into this week, before we head into the charts here, as I always say at the beginning of all of my videos, astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things. Okay, that is my guidance. I get intuitive guidance on a lot of this stuff. That is my guidance and likely always will be my guidance, okay? Meaning, of course, with that energetic template, we have free will within that. So anything that I get intuitively is always subject to change. Okay, so that's how it is from this vantage point, like from when I'm doing this reading now going forward. However, it's still subject to change within that energetic template. My guidance on that is that energetic template is like a math formula. Okay, and there's of course variables within that formula, and of course we can control what goes into those variables, but that formula is still what exists. All right, so we always have free will, always have, always will. I mean, you had the free will to create the character of you, right? To come in at a certain time with a certain energetic template to create the character of you. Okay, that's part of, that guidance, how that works. All right. Okay, so with all that being said here, we can jump into the charts for this week. Let me just pull them up on my end. Okay, here we go. So we're going to start here on Sunday, June 29th. And the only thing we really have peaking on this day here is this Mercury in opposition to Pluto retrograde. Okay, so now what I'm getting here is it's surrounding these themes of this retrograde, so what we know that needs to change, and there's some kind of expression of that. So Mercury in Leo is it can be very expressive, so it's like that being center stage, being in the spotlight kind of thing. Leo is very creative, very expressive. It's that masculine energy, that positive masculine expressive type of energy. It's also that expression of the self-love, etc., right? So, but what I get with this is there's something surrounding aspects of where we need to transform and change, and maybe even express ourselves in our own unique way here as we're dealing with Aquarius and Leo. But there's initially what I got was where that Pluto retrograde is surrounding where we need to make progress, where we need to make change, etc. We know that, but it's coming into more of our awareness and as the ability to be really expressed. What I'm feeling is like more in the spotlight now on what really needs to shift and change here, right? Let me just tune in more to this Mercury opposition Pluto to see if there's anything else. Mercury opposition Pluto, what does it feel like? There's, it's like this unwavering aspect of this expression of what needs to shift and change. It's kind of what I already said. It's like we're dealing with fixed energy as well, is what it feels is very stubborn to me. So it's this fixed energy that's focused on, it's like, we need to make progress. We need to transform in these areas. We need to change in these areas. But what was highlighted through me is this aspect of communication and expression is what I felt with that. So there may be communication coming through, expression coming through, but I maybe feel there's a bit of that intensity of Pluto. Of course, there always will be, that is going there, that's really pushing for this. It's like, this is kind of like unavoidable in terms of what needs to be expressed in terms of how we need to change. And this is, of course, coming from the heart as well. So it can be expressed in that way. This is, let me kind of tune into this again. Mercury opposition Pluto. Yeah, there's an aspect of standing up for what is right. But again, it relates to that expression of what needs to shift and change and be transformed. Okay, and these are things that we already know of. Okay, because Pluto is retrograde. Okay, so these are things that we already know we need to make progress on, we need to change, but it's being more expressed now because it's like, hey, we got to pay attention to this. Remember, this is an opposition. Opposition is focusing on finding balance. Okay, so things are being expressed now more openly in the spotlight because of these things that need to be transformed and changed, right? That we've already known of because of that retrograde vibe that is there. All right. Anyway, that's all that's really happening in terms of like energy peaking on this day. So let's move on now to Monday the 30th here. Okay, so on Monday the 30th here, we're going to have this sun in quintile to Chiron, as well as in quintile to the south node here. And then we're also going to have Mercury here in a semi-sextile to Jupiter. Okay, so let's actually hit on this Mercury first for a second, because there's still going to be an opposition to Pluto here on this day. So, okay, let me just kind of tune in this Mercury in semi-sextile to Jupiter. I want to say benevolent emotional expressiveness is how I want to describe that feeling. Because Jupiter is, of course, in Cancer. So with that Cancer, obviously, it's that, Cancer rules our the ruler of Cancer is the moon, our emotions, that kind of thing. It's also what I feel is like that nurturing vibe of Cancer, like that motherly nurturing kind of a vibe as well. But there's an expression of, so in Leo, it's bringing that, what I feel is more from the heart, because Leo is that expression of true expression of oneself. Excuse me, I'm burping there. I mean, it's usually the guide saying pay attention to that expression of oneself, so like from the heart. And we're dealing with that more emotional, benevolent, positive emotional standpoint there. And of course that can relate to, with this opposition to Pluto, again, with what needs to be transformed and changed, in an appropriate way, as kind of what I feel is coming through there. And now let's have a look at these quintiles as well. So Sun quintile Chiron, I feel like there's maybe an aspect of maybe emotional healing regarding to our self-identity, etc., that is coming through here with Mars and Virgo ruling Aries, dealing with maybe detail-oriented stuff, or could be fixing things. Virgo likes to fix things. So let me just tune into that Sun and quintile to Chiron. Yeah, so there's an emotional wounding there. But again, what I keep getting with Chiron are the positive message surrounding this as working on healing that. This feels it's not out in the open. So what it feels like is, with quintiles and biquintiles, it's work that gets put in behind the scenes, whether it's usually like some kind of creative work. So this feels like something happening in the background. It's not necessarily hidden, but it's not openly like it's not being blasted on like a billboard or on like, over social media or the media or any kind of media or anything like that. It's something that is there that you're working on, because what I'm getting is someone in a crowd moving to go do stuff, but there's so much going on that it's just not noticed. So that's what it feels like to me. That could also relate to that Virgo energy of like a lot of little things or a lot going on that it just maybe doesn't get noticed like that as well. But let me just kind of have another feel here. That's Sun quintile Chiron. This is wounds to self, identity, etc. But I'm feeling with this Sun still on Jupiter that there's like this emotional aspect of healing that relates to this in some way. There's a benevolence towards whatever this wound is, but it's in Aries, so it feels like it's to ourself, to our expression, to our own sovereignty, identity, etc. almost like our own, like when I say sovereignty, it almost relates to our own freedom in a sense as well, like the aspect to be ourselves, to do what we want, that kind of stuff. And it could feel like it relates to that Virgo stuff, is that practical day-to-day stuff could be holding us back in a sense as well, or having to deal with certain things that are upsetting to that. But there's some kind of an emotional expansion and healing. There's a benevolence here surrounding that is helping to deal with whatever that is. So then with the Sun in quintile to the South Node, let me just have it tune in here. Sun, quintile, South Node. Okay, so one thing, before I even feel into it, one thing that they're telling me is it's a release of those Virgo-in things. So how I said there was this expansion of this emotional healing with that biquintile to the South Node, there's a release of those like practical things that aren't serving anymore, those practical things that maybe were causing that wound to that identity in that sense. So there's something about that, whether they're nitpicky little things, day-to-day things, maybe work-related things or whatever. But again, this is more of that behind the scenes. It's not really in the forefront type of an energy that is working on letting go of that kind of stuff. Okay, so let me just feel in and tune into this again. Sun quintile South Node. Yeah, so what it... it's almost like a Virgo working against negative aspects of itself. So I've talked about this before with Capricorn too, but with Virgo, it's that nitpicky day-to-day work-like stuff, but Virgo also is that sign that likes to fix things. It's a mutable sign, it's changeable, so it looks at the details and it tries to fix. So what it feels like is that's kind of what it's doing, but you're letting go of the old stuff that's no longer serving you, and then it's almost like with this Mars energy, maybe as it relates to that Chiron too, is how you're using new efficiencies, looking at the details in a certain way to create new ways of doing things after letting go of that old. So you're letting go of that old stuff, which then leaves you with a new way to be practical and to move forward in that sense as well. But what I strongly feel is it relates to this expansion of whatever this emotional nurturance, that feeling is. It just feels very... it feels like Cancerian. It feels like home. It feels comfortable. It feels like that nurturing vibe in moving forward. You're nurturing in a practical sense, a new way, and letting go of what no longer is serving you in that sense. Let me just want to feel in one more time. Sun quintile South Node. Yeah, it's what I'm getting now too is a very strong, like it's a strong feminine energy that is working to help to take charge, help, and fix whatever is going on and letting go of what's no longer working, right? But it feels very much like it's not at the forefront. It's like something it's putting in the work, but it's like work behind the scenes. It's like the people that are doing, like the menial jobs kind of stuff that you don't normally see, but you see the results of, but you don't actually see them necessarily doing it, is the vibe that I'm getting with that. And I'm kind of, burping here, so maybe pay attention to what I just said there, okay? All right, so that would be Monday the 30th. Let's move on here to Tuesday. Actually, hold on. They're reminding me, thank you. Monday the 30th as well is when Mercury enters shadow. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be early because I think it's shadow at 4 degrees, 4 degrees something, 4 degrees, it's an earlier minute. So it's not 53 minutes, I think it's earlier in the day. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact time. But it's earlier in the day here on the 30th, what day? Monday. I'm thinking we're on Tuesday again already. On Monday. So Mercury does enter shadow. Mercury goes retrograde, I believe, July 17th. And doesn't go direct until August 11th, I believe. But yeah, Mercury goes retrograde at 15 degrees, I think 34 minutes of Leo. And we'll retrograde, of course, back to this 4 degree point. So let's see, Mercury entering shadow in Leo. This could deal, especially with that opposition to Pluto, again, what needs to change, and that expression of those things that need to be transformed and changed, because now we're heading into Mercury shadow as its opposition Pluto that is already retrograde. So we're going over these old things that we're made aware of, but now it's coming into the forefront again through this retrograde to come through in that way. So let me just feel into this Mercury shadow now. Mercury shadow starting on June 30th. Yeah, so it feels like there's going to be stuff that's brought to light. Again, it just kind of feels like any Mercury shadow or retrograde kind of energy is we're going to be made aware of things that need to be looked at, basically. They need to be reworked. They need to be looked at in some way. Of course, in Leo, this could be one of the words I'm hearing is dramatic, but it's just because things are going to be in the spotlight, in the forefront in a lot of ways, that's how this is going to be like coming through. And of course, as I talked about with that opposition to Pluto as well, there's an intensity there, almost like pushing for that progress and change. Well, we know that needs to change. And we already know these things. Pluto was a retrograde, so this is stuff we already know, but it's pushing it even further. It's like it can't be really hidden anymore. It's being brought into the spotlight, right? It's stuff that's really we're really seeing it now, right? And it's stuff that needs to be reworked and changed in that way. Like I hope I'm articulating this in an appropriate way. It's just sometimes it's hard based on what I feel to actually say what it is, because I can see it and feel it, but it's hard to like articulate it sometimes into actual language. Okay, so now let's move on to Tuesday, July 1st here. So if you're in Canada, happy Canada Day. All right, let's have a look here. So first things first, I see here is we're going to have this Venus here in that semi-sextile to Chiron. Then we're going to have Mercury making minor aspects to the nodes, the minor aspects that aren't so minor. But let's kind of tune into this Mercury, or this Venus in Chiron. So I feel like it's probably going to relate to an aspect. We're dealing with this Taurus energy, Venus and Taurus, regarding value and worth within, as it relates to this Chiron and Aries, within our own identity in terms of other people and relationships. It could also be monetary again, but also in terms of our own just value and worth in general regarding others, and relating to wounds of that and maybe healing that in some way as well. We have Venus coming into conjunct Uranus as well, so this could be relating to, what I'm feeling is it's relating to this Pluto retrograde and Uranus's sign of Aquarius regarding what we need to make progress on, what needs to change, and that's of course surrounding aspects of our uniqueness, individuality, and respecting that within ourselves as well as others, and understanding our own value and worth regarding that. All right, let me just have it tune into this Venus and semi-sextile to Chiron. Okay, so I feel like that Taurus energy is like, I know my fucking worth. It relates to that Chiron energy of that wound of self. Chiron, you can feel the hurt that exists there, but it's like, it's healing that through that Venus energy in Taurus. It's like, I know my fucking value and worth. Like, I don't give a fuck what you're saying or how you've hurt me in the past or whatever. What you're trying to do to wound me is bullshit. I know who I am. I know my fucking worth. Let me just tune into this a bit more. Venus semi-sextile Chiron there. Yeah, it's still that very stubborn Taurus energy, like, I don't give a fuck, I know my worth, and that helps to heal with that Chiron energy, or that wound of that identity, that self, that aspect that is existing there. All right, this is very strong and powerful feminine energy. The feminine energy, contrary to what we've been manipulated into believing, feminine energy is not weak by any stretch of the imagination. Feminine energy is indeed extremely strong, just like the masculine energy is extremely strong. Okay, but they do it in their own unique way. Okay, just because something is different doesn't mean it's better or less than something that is not like it. Okay, so they're just different and they exist equally. But yeah, it's very strong feminine energy. And it's like, I know my fucking value and worth. And like I said, it helps to heal those wounds of identity, self-sovereignty, etc. as we begin to move forward here, standing in that more stubborn ground surrounding that. All right. We're also on this day going to have this Mercury in sesqui-square to the North Node in Pisces and semi-square to the South Node here in Virgo. So this is something with the sesqui-square here. This is something that can no longer be swept under the rug. So what I'm getting now is it's relating to this opposition to Pluto, this awareness, the stuff that's being brought forward, especially as now we have this Mercury shadow here, that we needed to head in a new direction, even though it might be unknown. Another word that I'm getting is compassion, as Pisces is that sign that deals a lot with compassion. Okay, so we need to head in a more compassionate direction, and we need to head, and a lot of that is kind of unknown to us because we've been taught and manipulated to, fight each other and hate each other and all this other kind of stuff. But we need to move into a new space. We need to move into that unknown direction. Pisces is also the unknown. It's the veil. It's the fog. We know we need to go in a new direction, but we may not know exactly how we're going to get there, what's going on, whatever. But we're just taking it step by step as we go, and things are being revealed as we begin to move forward. But it's through this, whatever this awareness is, that expansion is, that helps to push us into that space. And of course, with this semi-square to the South Node in Virgo, it's what was practical, what we thought was practical is no longer going to serve us, right? Those day-to-day normal things, it's not working because what's being brought into the spotlight here, where we need to truly make progress and change in a very intense way. Because what we have to shift, these things can't be swept under the rug any longer. We have to move forward in a more compassionate space and in a new direction. All right. So let me just tune in a bit more here we'll start with the sesqui-square, Mercury sesqui-square, the North Node in Pisces. What can we get there? Yeah, so it's kind of basically what I said. Pretty much. But that Mercury, because it's now in shadow, it's like there's what it feels like is an uproar or like an upheaval in some way that's being seen. Whether that exists on a global level or just simply on an individual level or on a group level or whatever, can exist in any kind of level like that. And that Pisces energy, it just feels like, it feels very positive. A very positive, flowing. It's a very flowing way forward, but it's almost like they're helping each other in terms of we need to move forward in this new way and to just kind of go with the flow and moving with this, relating to what is being brought up with this Mercury energy through whatever this drama is, this expression, whatever craziness is going on that we're being made aware of through communication or whatever other means with this Mercury energy. And I'm being drawn to the fact that Mercury is conjunct Mercury's own South Node here in Leo, which means that what's being brought up is likely something that needs to be let go of. Okay, and that's regarding what needs to be let go of there in terms of where we need to head in terms of this new direction. Now, with this semi-square to the South Node here, let me just tune in. Mercury and semi-square to the South Node in Virgo. Okay, I'm feeling, because Mercury rules the South Node, I'm getting this very like Virgo type vibe. But it's not, it doesn't feel, it's like it's this aspect of stress, this aspect of like all this crap, and like that North Node in Pisces, what I feel is just, it's like it's like this going with the flow is calm. It's like, just go with it. It feels more compassionate, peaceful, loving, whereas this Virgo energy just feels like, it feels like a grind. I could relate to the fact that Mercury's in shadow too, and shit could be happening with that Mercury kind of shadow retrograde type of themes, because sometimes Mercury shadow is worse than the actual retrograde. But yeah, let me just kind of feel in again. Yeah, it can feel kind of like chaotic in like a detailed way, But what I get is like, it just feels kind of stressed. It's like a lot of little things going on. But kind of what I'm feeling is like, we let go of it by dealing with it as well. So by dealing with those things, we let go of them. Okay, and then it's almost like these are kind of two different things. In terms of this aspect to the South Node and this aspect to the North Node. They feel like two different energies. So it's almost like there could be a lot going on here, that there's details that just need to be dealt with in order to just be able to move forward. But at the same time, with that sesqui-square to the North Node, it's like whatever drama and stuff is going on is being brought to our awareness in terms of what the direction that we need to move forward in. So it's already what I said regarding that, but it's almost like they're two different energies, almost like operating independently. Yeah, it feels weird because usually, I'm just thinking because of like the nodal axis, usually when you have something aspecting it, it's kind of like there's one kind of solid theme, but it doesn't actually feel like that with this. It feels like almost like two different things. So that's interesting. Anyway, let's move on to Wednesday, July 2nd here. So this is when we're going to have this first quarter moon. So Sun in Cancer, Moon in Libra. All right, we're also going to have the Sun in trine to Black Moon Lilith and Mars in biquintile to Pluto. Okay, so this quarter moon, I just have a look here, and I'm just going to have a tune in. Okay, so this first quarter moon, Sun square the Moon in Libra. I'm being drawn to the aspect of Libra, this sign of like balance, justice. There's a vibe of that. It feels very feminine. Sorry, I'm just trying to like articulate this. The Sun in Cancer still feels like the same as before in the past few days, from what I feel. It's this Cancerian vibe, but there's that Moon in Libra, there's an aspect of balance. Interestingly, the Moon rules Cancer where the Sun is, and is in Libra, squaring the Sun in its own sign. I say that because it's like the Moon can also deal with like subconscious and hidden things. It's almost like there's an aspect of that relating to what is out of balance, is maybe what is something that is hidden in some way, is something that needs to be brought up or dealt with in some aspect. Is kind of what that feels like, that exists in terms of like this out of balance state. But this Sun feels very positive still in Cancer. So, okay, I think what I'm getting here is there's this aspect of there's this something out of balance, but there's this positivity that exists, and they're like at odds with each other. So with this square, it's like pushing for some kind of resolution to maybe bring this back into a more harmonious space. Let me just feel into this a bit more again. That first quarter moon, Sun square Moon in Libra. Okay, so it feels out of balance with other people versus that peace. There's a certain peace that exists with that Cancer energy. It's almost like a nurturing, or like that peace that you get like from almost like Cancer rules the home, so it's like from being at home when you're in like your own space, your own sanctuary, you feel that aspect of peace. But then there's this aspect of like other people that is causing that there's an out of balance space here regarding this aspect of like feeling at peace, feeling at home. This could relate to the whole earth as a home, our home as an individual level. There's multiple levels in terms of which this could exist, but it could also be just on the level as there's other people at odds with each other, that there's an imbalance here with this aspect of comfort and peace, and that needs to be worked out in some way. So there you go. That's what they're saying is the main vibe to that energy. Okay, so let's have a look here. Oh, we're on the sun already, sorry. So we're also going to have the sun here in trine to Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. So now Black Moon Lilith is that very strong feminine energy, very powerful feminine energy, but it's also where we can feel outcast, because that energy itself has been outcasted in our world, because we've been manipulated again. Like I said before, we've been manipulated into believing that the feminine is weak. So when the feminine becomes strong, it's kind of pushed away, because it's like, oh, you're not supposed to be that, the masculine's supposed to be strong, but that's just fucking bullshit. They're both strong. Okay, so let me tune in to hear this sun trine Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. Okay, that Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio just feel like I'm getting a very badass energy that comes from that. There's just a strong energy that I'm not fucking with bullshit. Because again, the sign of Scorpio itself doesn't want to fuck with bullshit. The Black Moon Lilith energy, she don't fuck with bullshit either. And with this Cancerian, another like very feminine, emotional type of energy is like, this is a very positive, I'm not going to fuck with bullshit type of feminine vibe that is coming through. Let me just keep tuning in here. Sun trine Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. Again, I just feel a very strong, powerful feminine energy. So wherever we have been outcast, wherever that, it feels just very strong. It's like that's not going to fly anymore, right? Is the vibe that I get from that. It just feels like she don't give a fuck, and she's doing what she wants. She doesn't care, and she's going to stand up for what's right, fix what's right, and deal with what's going on. She's not going to fuck with bullshit. It's like, I'm not going to mess with this crap anymore. This is how it's going to be. I got to stand in my power. This is very strong feminine energy flowing through with that there. Also on this day too, we're going to have this Mars here in this biquintile to Pluto. So, okay, I'm just going to try to tune into this right away. Mars biquintile Pluto. I don't know why they kind of feel at odds with each other. So that Mars and Virgo energy is that I want to fix, I want to redo, I want to look at these things, details, fix, do all this stuff. It doesn't feel bad, it feels positive. But that Pluto, I feel the strength of that Pluto, that very strong Pluto energy in Aquarius. That's like, we need to look at this, we need to okay, I get it now. So what the stuff that we need to change and make progress on and look and transform, that's the stuff where we need to take this positive action in Virgo to make the appropriate changes to work on the appropriate efficiencies, work on the appropriate details, and of course to fix and change so that we can transform to make progress in some way. So that's why they kind of feel at odds with each other, but they're really not. It's like bringing to light this Scorpio vibe, because Pluto rules Scorpio. So there's strong transformational vibe of what really needs to be shaken up, what needs to change, where we need to transform and make progress. And of course, where we're going to like put in the work surrounding the details, efficiencies, like fixing things. It just feels like that Virgo aspect of like fixing things. It feels very positive, that Mars and Virgo, in this sense and how it plays out. This feels very intensely and deep, like you gotta fucking do this. Like that's like the both energies, they feel completely different, but that's kind of how they're working together with this. But with that biquintile, what it feels like again is it's not something that is at the forefront. It's something that exists, that is kind of like happening, like somebody's work. It's not like they're trying to hide it, but it's like they're working on it, that exists like behind the scenes. Maybe you hear about it, maybe you don't, but it's just kind of, it's shuffled about kind of in the crowd, where it's, if you like were specifically trying to figure it out and look for it, you could see it, but otherwise you wouldn't notice that it's there. So it's that stuff that's happening, but we're not really seeing it at the forefront. At least not yet. What I kind of get is yet, but it's being worked on in that way. All right, so that is Wednesday, July 2nd here. So let's move on to Thursday, July 3rd. And there's nothing major peaking on this day at all. Well, that's good. Let's move on to Friday, July 4th. And of course, this is when we're going to have Neptune going retrograde, Venus entering Gemini, and we're also going to have that Venus conjunct Uranus as well before Venus comes into Gemini. So let me just tap into here. So it's not showing yet. Neptune doesn't go retrograde until way late okay, so 3:30 p.m., but that's not long after where I have the charts at, but I'm thinking it's later just from what I see here. But anyway, it's Neptune retrograde. Let me just have a tune in here to see. So Neptune going retrograde. I want to say the word depth. There's a depth to this. It's like, it's going almost like deep within. This is like a very introspective type of energy and depth with this. I think I'm getting it maybe as it relates to going within in oneself, because we have Neptune in Aries. Okay, so this is relating to our self-identity, etc., and we need to maybe go within. As I've said before, I think they're reminding me here, it's relating to this aspect of having compassion for oneself, one's identity, and this aspect of this softening of this masculine energy to be more in its heart space, in a sense, with this Neptune in Aries. But I feel like it's just that more like internally focused type of energy. It's almost like that Hermit card in tarot, where it's like you've got to like become a recluse and like go within, because that's where the answers really lie for you specifically. It's like we're also used to looking externally for everything, when really your own truth exists within you, and it has the entire time. You've never needed to look to an outward source. Okay, so let me just kind of tune into this a bit more here, see if I can get anything else. Neptune retrograde. Yeah, because it's going to go back into Pisces. So there's this, just like this depth. It's like this depth of like re-looking at a lot of. Okay, so what I'm kind of feeling with this is a lot of stuff that maybe it's like it's been hidden, but it hasn't been. It's been hidden, but it's like where we haven't really been made aware of it, but with this retrograde, we're going to be made aware of it, of like the illusion, the deception of that kind of stuff that has gone on. And I feel like that's maybe more when it goes back into Pisces. And initially, maybe it's just related to this going inward in terms of it being in Aries initially. And then as we go back into Pisces, seeing how that aspect of deception and being like, whoa, wait a minute. How did I not see that before? That's that kind of vibe that feels like. Let me just kind of feel into this a bit more here with this Neptune retrograde. Neptune retrograde. Is there anything else? I'm not getting anything else surrounding that. So I think that those are kind of the main themes that are existing with that there. All right. So again, that starts on Friday here. Let's tune in now to this. Let's have a look at this Venus energy. So let's do Venus conjunct Uranus first, and then as Venus comes into Gemini. So what I initially get is maybe there's a change in aspect of like relationships or something like that exists. But let me just see here. So Venus conjunct Uranus. I feel a very like Uranian vibe, like that's the stronghold here. As in it's things that can just happen like a lightning strike, happen out of nowhere kind of thing, because that's Uranus, Aquarius kind of a vibe. But that seems to be like the highlighted energy. But Venus conjunct Uranus, let's feel. Whether it relates to volatility surrounding aspect of either like markets or I'm talking like money markets, or like aspects of like value and worth in some way. This could be good or bad. But let me just kind of tune in. There's a volatility that's surrounding with this, because what I get is like this aspect of Uranus, and there's all this stuff that could just fucking happen. And it's anything that deals with this is extremely unpredictable kind of energy. So I could say markets and then nothing could happen, right? Like there's a vibe that is, but maybe it's whether it's good or bad or what, like you don't know. There's an aspect of unpredictability that exists here. So Venus conjunct Uranus. There's just this aspect of shakeup and change surrounding like this Venus vibe. Whether it could relate to relationships, as in a shakeup of people, or like I said, money, material things, as it relates to value and worth. But it's just going to seem like it happens. Like it's not something that, what I'm kind of getting is it might be like kind of shocking. Like there's a shift that kind of occurs here, that happens with this conjunction. So let's tap into this Venus coming into Gemini and just see what that's gonna, Venus in Gemini. The Gemini seems to be a very highlighted energy with this. It feels very, how do I say this? Quick, crazy, like fast. I feel like that is the energy. But again, as that relates to those aspects of, like getting the material side of Venus, like that Taurus material side of Venus. So whether that relates to value, worth, money, material things, that kind of stuff, there's like a quickness that kind of exists with that from a more material, could be even like a sensual perspective as well. It's more like the material world realm, that in terms of maybe those themes that are moving more quickly, with that vibe is like what I feel with that. Let me just tune in a bit more again. Venus in Gemini. Of course, another thing too is there's always like a curiosity when it comes to Gemini as well. It's like that learning kind of energy. So whether that relates to maybe new relationships, or there's an aspect of relationship where there's a curiosity here surrounding this, what I'm feeling is, okay, maybe there's a youthful naivety that's surrounding maybe an aspect of relationship or of people in that sense, when we're looking at the relationship side of Venus. Let me just kind of feel into that a bit more. Venus and Gemini. What I'm getting is there's an aspect of change, but it's surrounding communication and like an awareness of things. Like there's certain people, how do I fucking say this? Let me feel into this again. Venus and Gemini. It's almost like people that have this kind of a strong Gemini energy coming to the forefront, maybe in some way, that are going to be highlighted. The person that did come to me when I was feeling that was Donald Trump. So of course there could be a lot more coming from him in terms of communication surrounding this, as it maybe relates to relations with other people. This could be surrounding other nations as well, for surrounding like relationships and things like that, because I mean we all know what's going on, but yeah. I'm just trying to feel into this a bit more. Venus and Gemini. I just kind of get like more of a Trump, like, I'm tune into this more. Another aspect to this too is there's, how do I say this? It's like a more feminine communication, more feminine express. It's like more, I might hear a lot from more of like a feminine, like authority type of figures that are going to be speaking out in some sense too, surrounding more of this. It's kind of like there's a lot going on here. And I kind of feel like with that Gemini, that craziness that exists with that energy, it's almost like every time I tune in, it's like this vibe, but then it shifts to this and shifts to this. It's like this crazy neurotic type of vibe of like that Mercury and Gemini communication type of energy. I feel like it might be a bit all over the place. Is what I feel with this, because Venus relates so much to not only our people, our relationships, but our material things, which in a lot of sense is a lot of stuff that exists in our lives. And with Gemini, this fast moving kind of everywhere thing, and of course with Mercury now in shadow in Leo, with bringing these things to the forefront. So again, I'm being drawn to that aspect of Trump again, this Leo Gemini stuff. So whatever something could be happening with him going on that starts to go on regarding maybe was Mercury shadow stuff that comes up surrounding whatever, I don't fucking know. This could be get more wild and crazy as things move forward here, which wouldn't surprise me, but anyone wouldn't probably surprise anyone, but anyway, yeah, that's what I get with that. I'm just gonna kind of stop there with that. I mentioned the one whose name's, you mentioned Trump and anything, and people start thinking, oh, don't say that. But I mean, I'm just getting it like as a vibe. Like I don't know whether it's going to be good or bad or what's going to happen. Like he just kind of says stuff sometimes. So like, anyway, let's move on to Saturday the 5th. Okay. So Saturday, July 5th, the only thing that I see on this day here is we're going to have Chiron in this biquintile to the South Node in Virgo. Okay, so what I kind of initially get with this is this letting go. We're letting go of maybe certain things, whether it's detail-oriented things, what we thought was practical in terms of whatever this aspect of healing is in terms of our self-sovereignty, identity, that kind of stuff, etc. Okay? Or what we thought was practical is no longer practical, that needs to be let go of. And again, this is stuff that is happening, but not necessarily in the forefront, but maybe more in the behind the scenes type of a vibe. So, okay, let me just tune into this again. So Chiron biquintile, the South Node. I get that heaviness of that Chiron, that wound again. The South Node feels it. How do I describe this? Okay, it's relating to that biquintile itself. Like there's things that are no longer serving that need to let go of, that maybe haven't been, that aren't necessarily something that has been really made to be aware of. But that needs to be let go of. It's almost like when somebody's been in maybe like an abusive situation or something like that, and we don't really know the full story, but that needs to be healed and moved on and cleared, or maybe they don't want to talk about it or something like that. It's that kind of an energy that needs to be let go of in terms of moving forward to heal whatever this wound is in terms of identity. So, and maybe a bit more internally focused surrounding that. I feel like that's just the energy of that biquintile itself, as that exists in that behind the scenes way in terms of what needs to be let go of that maybe had existed in some kind of day-to-day or practical sense, but is being healed in some way with this. It's very, I want to use the word hidden. So this may be more of like an inwardly focused kind of a vibe in terms of what that is with this Chiron biquintile, the South Node there. All right. So yeah, that's it for this week. Let me see, maybe if I can tune into an overall energy here and just bring it back to myself. So if there was an overall energy for this week, energetically, astrologically, what would it be? Initially, I get aspects of chaos, people speaking out, or just a lot of communication, craziness. I'm being drawn to that aspect of Mercury shadow, maybe things going wrong in some sense. This feels very like global, like on a wider stage. Individually, what is like, well, in a general, it's hard to say individually, but like in a general sense that's non-global, I'm getting in like a more just like work. It's more introspective, like an aspect of introspective, working on making appropriate changes, moving forward in new directions, working on appropriate changes and doing certain like menial, mundane kinds of things surrounding that, is the energy I feel with that as well. Okay, anything else coming through here as an energy for this week? They're bringing me back to that aspect of like almost like chaos again, that expression, like communication. There's going to be like, I think a lot of people like expressing what needs to be changed, expressing how we need to change in some way, moving forward here surrounding a lot of this. All right. Yeah. So anyways, I'm going to end it there. Thank you all for watching. If you have made it this far in the video, leave a purple heart in the comments so I know you're a real one. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye for now. Bye.